starting point. We talked a little bit about it at the very beginning when we talked about the function of the sodium-potassium pump, and we talked about that resting state of this neuron and of the muscle cell. Okay, so where are all of our positive ions found at the very beginning of this whole story?
Outside.
They're on the outside. And what's the major ion that we're talking about that's going to do the moving through the membranes when we talk about this electrical potential moving through? Sodium. So sodium is kind of the main player when we talk about these two types of cells. So neurons and muscle cells are both considered to be excitable. That means that they are able to be, I want to say excited, but I'm trying to define it a different way. They can be stimulated to do something with some type of an electrical charge or activity. Epithelial cells, you try to apply some electrical charge to that and they'll say, doesn't do anything, right? But you apply an electrical charge to neurons and to muscle, and their entire existence is set up in such a way that that electrical impulse can hit at one spot, and it will zoom down the entire cell. It'll jump across the cleft, hit the next cell, zoom across that one, and right, we are communicating. We are doing something to that cell that will then actually create a series of events happening inside the cell itself that will eventually lead to a muscle contraction. Okay? So other tissue types like epithelial and connective don't respond in any way. Okay? Part of that reason is that they don't have a membrane that's set up like the muscle and the neuron membrane. So we're going to go through this, and I'm saying use pencil because I'm going to have to kind of draw the resting state, and then we're going to change it as this electrical potential goes through. So try to use a pencil here too. All right. So we said that we start with positive charges on the outside and negative charges on the inside. And we say that the resting state for both of these cells is positive on the outside and negative on the inside. That term polarized, do you remember what that term polarized means when we talked about chemistry? We talked about polar molecules or a polar covalent bond. What did polar mean?
Has a charge.
Means it has a charge, yes. There's an extra piece along with that. What if you have a polar covalent bond? What did that mean in particular?
Opposite charges.
It had opposite charges, or we could say a separation of charges, like on water. Remember, the oxygen was slightly negative, the hydrogens were slightly positive. So, and I think we used the example, if you have a polarizing political issue or topic, right, it divides people, right? You have people who are absolutely on this side and people who are absolutely on this side, right? They're separated. So that's what a polarized membrane means. You have separated your charges. You've pushed all the positive to one side, and you're left with negative on the inside. And then what did we say was responsible for creating that separation?
In covalent bonds?
No, in this example.
Sodium, potassium.
There you go, yeah. So the sodium-potassium pump is actually scattered all throughout both of these membranes, pushing. It pushes unevenly, right? Do you remember, again, from that earlier chapter? How many sodiums are pushed out?
2, 3.
are pushed in? Two. And then the part, and you don't have to have this written down at the moment, but we actually have these, what we call leak channels, and the potassiums that come in leak back out. So the positives, right, 3 positive out and 2 positive in, and then the 2 positives in float back out. So you see how you get all those positives out there, and you're left with kind of an absence of positive on the inside, okay? So that's the resting state. All right. Now, when we transmit a message, literally what we're talking about is that we take some of these positives that are on the outside and we let them come in. And that will then trigger a change in charge. That change in charge becomes the stimulus that will open what type of gated channel do you think?
Voltage.
A voltage gated channel, right? So you can see how this is our starting point. Once it trips off, we are now going to start what's basically like a rapid domino effect. That once the charge flips here, it triggers the next, and 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 it just goes, okay? So what we're kind of jumping in the middle, but we'll see how it all happens right here. That's just the backstory a bit of where we're headed, okay? So pull out your reading guide with those paragraphs, and let's start going through those and make sure we can walk through these steps together, okay? So let's just all go in a big circle. Each person just take one sentence and one blank